ask Kevin to call the roll.
All right. Chair, Harry Meyer.
Yes.
Vice Chair, Gary Delvaux.
Here.
Jim Bloomer.
Here.
Alderman Joe Moore is running late. Melanie Parma.
Here.
Matt Schuler.
Here.
Tom Weber.
Here. Well, as for a motion and approve of the agenda that was sent out.
Second.
Gary and
Jim.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Also ask for a motion on the approval of the minutes that were distributed.
So moved.
Tom?
Second.
Matt? All right. Tom and Matt, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Communications not all business. Consideration and possible action on development agreement with Schwab North America for Nature's Way Development at 954 Erie Road, parcel 21171-2 and 1024 Erie Road, parcel 21171-4. Kevin?
All right, so we are talking about Schwab North America. Most of you know them as Nature's Way. The development entity for this project is Erie Road Properties. This is what we talked about a month ago. Their intentions are to build a new health food manufacturing facility in the southwest corner of Mason Street and Erie Road. With that, we feel this is a very, very good project. As I talked about last time, this was a nationwide search, and even though they're just down the road, they really looked around in terms of where to put their next facility, being a major investment, and we're happy to say we're able to work something out that they're able to choose Green Bay. So what's before you today in this development agreement provides a TIF incentive, which is a pay-go reimbursement. It's an 80% pay-go, and can provide up to $3 million of incentive on the back end as part of that pay-go incentive. Some of the other obligations that the city would be looking at and would be using TID 12 to pay for would be the reconstruction of Erie Road from Mason Street south. That is something that we need to do regardless in terms of continuing to expand.
Is that the main road going in?
Yep, so Mason Street, it's the main east-west corridor. Yeah. If you look at the next ones, in terms of north-south corridors, Huron Road's been done, Erie Road's up next. Right. So the intentions are to make it a concrete urban street, just like the rest of the business park, so it'll look like the rest of the business park as you expand. The other piece of the infrastructure is the sewer extension, which will provide additional capacity then for us to service all those parcels east of Erie Road. So those are our two infrastructure improvements. The client would like those completed. There's some timetables in here. Getting the laterals in before June 30th of next year, and then getting the full up to service. That's very, very soothing. Getting fully online by September 30th of next year. The developer is also interesting, and the city will work to acquire two smaller parcels, the parcel right at the corner of Mason and Erie, it's about 2 acres, and then a small residential house further down Erie Road. We have those under contract right now. It will be less than $400,000 as was anticipated here. Those are part of the obligations of the city. So with that, again, you can see in terms of where we're projecting right now, the value of the property, we're anticipating around $15 million. I think it's a little tougher to determine assess of industrial properties, because really that's handled through the state, and really it depends on what you build. But given what they're doing here in terms of some of the things that we've looked at in terms of the investment, guaranteeing the $20 million of hard costs into the facility, we feel comfortable with this. And again, it's a pay-go. With that, just some of the other things it does in terms of enhancing, providing 35 jobs, adding to our manufacturing workforce and supply chain. We feel this is a very good project, a very important project, and we encourage your support on it. Just a technical thing in terms of the formal motion for approval. This was held over from our last meeting. Just to clarify, so we're clear, I think it's important that we change the developer from Schwab North America to Erie Road Properties. And then number 2, add 926 Erie Road and 1038 Erie Road. Those are two properties that the developer ultimately intends to acquire. Those are the ones we're picking up. I think it's just important that those are all contemplated in this agreement, just for clarity, because they're referenced in there, so it should be made in the motion as well.
Kevin, do they have an agreement to buy the property?
Yeah, right now. So part of this, structures out that we will purchase the 2 little properties, again, for no more than 400, and transfer those to the developer. And then they will purchase our land that we already own, 28 acres, for $700,000. So those are the 2 real estate transactions. The real estate specialist, Ken Ravinsky, has been working. We've got the 2 parcels under contract. In discussions with the EDA, we feel it's important to get those secured. Again, we want to see this happen here, but regardless of that, in terms of just making a nice square property for future development. So part of that involves us taking off one of those parcels this year, and then the other one, because they do have a resident in there, we've worked with them that they'll be out by end of next May.
Is this scheduled for a startup then for sometime next year?
So they will start construction in the spring, and then they will work to get equipment in and start some testing in the fall of next year. They would like to get everything sealed up before the winter, so they can be running, doing some tests, and then fully operational in 2019. I also believe you have specific questions. Oh, I'm sorry, right there. Mike Winkler, CFO from the company, is also here if you want anything to ask more directly. You can provide some of those details as well.
Kevin, when I went over this, I didn't really see too much new from our first discussion. Is there something that we should be aware of?
No, I mean, in terms of what has changed since the term sheet, really we just kind of clarified, I think, the process for us acquiring those 2 extra properties, just doing some environmental work on them, take that back, environmental assessment, just to make sure there's nothing on there. They would like to make sure that if they're getting them, they're not inheriting or purchasing some contaminated properties. But other than that, I mean, these are things that we all contemplated in the term sheet in terms of infrastructure and other obligations.
You said the acquisition of those 2 other parcels could run to 400?
Correct. Right now, I think we are in for 365. 365,000 is what we have in our contract for.
And they're paying us
100, yes.
That's solid, Ken? Is that 365?
Yeah, that's where we are. Yeah, we have signed offers.
Okay.
Yep. Signed obligations.
Okay.
Yep.
I got a question here.
Go ahead.
And I apologize for being late.
Sure.
The foreign trade zone, number 167, I believe that's an 8-mile radius of city center. So is this fall within, or what does it entail to make sure that this will fall within that 8-mile radius?
It does, and they're pretty, without speaking for them, pretty liberal about getting a designation for these foreign trade zones.
Okay.
So,
and then that then includes the acquisition of the additional properties they'll fall within as well?
Correct. We'll put all the parcels contemplated in here, we'll put them into that FTZ.
Okay.
Anything else, Joe?
That's all I have. Thank you.
So, is it open it up or go for a motion and pass it? What
I'm
should we do?
concerned we can make a motion. We've discussed this project before, and it's solid.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity for City of Green Bay. So I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion by Gary, a second by Matt.
Jim,
Gary, I'm gonna recuse myself on this one.
Gary, you gonna make those changes that were requested?
Yes.
The 2 parcels and the
Yes.
area road development?
So it's Erie Road properties.
Yep.
Proposal.
We should note that Matt is not voting on this issue because he's appointed there. We have the motion then to approve the development agreement with Shabby North. Those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Carried.
Sure.
Good work, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a great opportunity.
Yep.
We're very lucky City of Green Bay to have you guys.
Appreciate it.
Number 2, new business. Consideration of possible action on development agreement with the City of Green Bay and the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Green Bay for the Shipyard Outdoor Event Center at 100, at a lot of numbers of streets on Mason and Broadway. I'm not going to read them all.
You don't want to go through all those
We
parcels?
wanted to see what happened.
So,
All right, so we are back talking about the shipyard. The shipyard is something that we have been discussing for quite some time now. We had some term sheet last fall. We had some discussions this summer in terms of the process, where negotiations were at, ideas or some iterations in terms of forming a development agreement and management agreement. Before you today on the agenda, we have two pieces. One, we have a development agreement, which is set for consideration of possible action. And then tied to that, we also have a management agreement that really looks at the contract between the Redevelopment Authority and an operator. We have that listed for action, but I think the appropriate action on that would be to discuss and refer back for further negotiations. I sent out a copy of that. So I think we'd like to get into details and just, again, as we've done with some of these other agreements, see if there's anything that the RDA would like to see in there or see out of there before we finalize that contract. But for right now, we would like to focus on the development agreement. And the development agreement, it's a little bit different in that, we don't have a formal development here, but this is really kind of an understanding between the city and the Redevelopment Authority, identifying some terms, conditions, and steps in the process to complete what we've been calling the shipyard project. So with that, I just want to do a little review in terms of, again, I think it's important that we continue to talk about this as a comprehensive redevelopment project for the South Broadway neighborhood. And as we've talked about, the pieces, 4 components of this, the south being the spot for an outdoor event center, and as we've also talked about, an outdoor event center that could potentially include an indoor concert venue and a full-service restaurant. We've talked about the north parcel for multifamily housing, some mixed use in there, possibly some office. We've talked about Broadway and some prime redevelopment opportunities on that stretch. Especially we've talked about Badger Sheet Metal and the White Store along with some assorted properties in there. And we've also talked about the neighborhood and that western edge, roughly bounded by the Intermodal Yard, Ashland, Broadway, and then Orange Street on the north. And it's a neighborhood, and we'll talk about a little bit more, that I think as a city we've managed to stabilize, but really now is kind of the time in terms of how we're going to be setting the trajectory for that neighborhood and for some of these parcels down here. So what I'd like to do is just provide some context about the neighborhood, the businesses, and then talk a little bit about where we're at before we kind of propose where we're going. So with that, some staff members, we have Will Peters, who is our neighborhood support specialist, and Matt Buchanan, who is our development specialist, have done some work in this neighborhood with the residents and with the businesses. And I think some of their findings can help set the context of where we're at and provide some support for where we want to go with this project. So I think I would turn it over to them just for a second to kind of give a little context of the shipyard neighborhood.
Thanks, Kevin. Hello, my name is Will Peters. I'm the neighborhood support specialist for the city of Green Bay. Like Kevin said, Matt, myself, and Aaron had the opportunity to visit 443 residences in this area, which is between...
Did you talk with them all?
No, not all, but we did visit every single door. We knocked every single door. We administered the survey door to door in person, and for the homes that we did not receive an answer, we had door hangers that we left on the door with our contact information, letting them know why we were there and that we'd like to seek their input. So the area that we surveyed was from 9th Street to Walnut, and then from State Street up to Ashland Avenue. And as I mentioned earlier, it's 443 residences. We received 64 responses, which is a 15% response rate, which, believe it or not, is solid. It's pretty gosh darn good. I can't complain about that.
I might speak just a little bit to the business survey that we did. Matt Buchanan, development specialist, and I kind of oversaw the implementation of the business survey. We understand that with businesses, it's not always easy to do door-to-door. A lot of these establishments are open later in the evenings, and so we decided to do a mail survey that would be open for business managers or owners to respond to. We sent out 65 of all the businesses that we found that were located in there. We found 65, and 18 responded for a 28% response rate, which was pretty good.
I think we even included posted envelopes. We really tried to do everything we could to increase that response rate. So one of the questions on the survey that we asked was if they owned or rented. And right here, I mean, it's pretty close to split. I wanted to show that we weren't only seeking the input from property owners, but also residents, people who just live in the neighborhood, because we understand that we value their input, and their input does matter in what's going on in the area. We asked a number of yes and no questions, but we wanted to ask more open-ended because we really wanted to get the input. We don't want to have a multiple choice question where we're guiding the answer too much. So for instance, we asked what residents liked about the neighborhood. The majority responded with it was quiet. They liked their neighbors, the location, close to parks. The next question were the top 3 needs they felt their neighborhood needed. Overwhelmingly amount of people responded with roads and infrastructure. Home conditions, landlord accountability. A few even mentioned slumlords. They really wanted to see the exterior appearance of their neighborhood improve. And then also neighborhood safety and crime was also a concern. Yes?
Did any landlords, were they contacted at all, or just the residents?
We were doing residences because the residents are spending the most time in the neighborhood, and that's what we really wanted to focus our attention to.
Okay.
We didn't intentionally leave them out. The impact of the shipyard, as you'll notice too, all of this is in the packet that you received. There are more answers to that as well, but approximately 88% feel the shipyard will bring a positive impact. And they expressed that more people will be present in the neighborhood, which is a good thing. Hopefully bring a lot more families into the neighborhood, improve the neighborhood image and the neighborhood itself overall. So overall, we got a positive feedback from the residents, which was great to hear.
Turning to the businesses now, we asked them fairly similar questions, but from that business perspective. We asked them what their level of satisfaction was as a place to do business in the neighborhood. And if you look at it, it's kind of a meh answer. About 44% came back saying that they are actually satisfied as the neighborhood for a place to do business. 31% are neutral. About 25% are dissatisfied. That's the same one, yeah. Looking to the future, we asked them what their opinions were with future developments, if they would like to see that looking down into years to come, and that was pretty overwhelmingly positive, with 83% favoring new development in the neighborhood. We asked them how do they think the shipyard development might strengthen their business. And generally the responses were pretty good. Improving neighborhood reputation was the top response. Shortly thereafter, increasing property values, increases in number of customers. These are all things that the business owners identified as potential positive impacts of this project. We also asked them, whether positive or negative, what they think the project would do for the overall neighborhood. And basically, all the questions were very positive. Looking here, some quotes, some quotes that we got. A catalyst for the positive development of South Broadway. Bring more people downtown, will help my summertime business. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10. There was really only one negative response from this. I think an industrial property owner was a little bit concerned of how that how the change and use in the neighborhood might impact their business. But overall, fairly positive responses.
And I would like to add too, I mean, that was, as far as negative feedback, it's primarily people mentioned concern with parking, where they would be able to park or increase traffic. But I believe that is to be expected with a development such as this in that neighborhood.
Any questions? As well mentioned, the full surveys are actually in your packets with all the questions and all the answers.
Are you people satisfied with the responses you got? Is that a relatively good number?
Yeah, considering not everybody wants to answer the door, and those who do answer the door, not everyone wants to give their opinion or input, especially if you say that you're from the city, and they may wonder what your motives are or intents. They may have some skepticism there. So I am. The way that I look at it, Alderman Moore, when was the last time that you had 64 constituents come to a city council meeting to express their input on an issue?
I think the residents and the businesses alike were very appreciative that the city was going to them to ask for their input on a project in their neighborhood.
What are we looking at to provide in this residential area? What carrots are out there?
Comes later in the presentation. I'm going to talk about that.
Oh, you are?
Cheryl will touch upon that.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So I think, and again, I think that's one of our pieces of homework that we've done, in this time, is really kind of reaching out to the community to kind of get a sense of what they're looking for, where they're at, and how we could, if there were concerns, how we could address them as part of this development piece. So I want to go on and talk now what we're proposing to do. And the first piece of this is for the City and Redevelopment Authority to construct an outdoor event center. This continues to follow things that we've talked about all along in terms of providing a mixed use, mixed season outdoor events center. I think it's very important that this center is programmed for a variety of sports and a variety of activities. I think we've gone through some iterations both with us and an external consultant, primarily to be able to play baseball, soccer, and football at this facility. And I think we have an arrangement where we're able to make that work. One of the things that we've discussed is, which we might think is a very unique feature, is for a removable outfield wall that would allow for the end zone of the football, or the end zone of the football stadium would be outside the park the majority of the time, but then the wall would retract and be open for football. While the wall is in place, that end zone, again, because it's a turf field, would be outside but near the river, could be used as a play space or another amenity, something we feel is kind of cool to interact with the water, and again, kind of adds another piece of uniqueness to this facility. One of the things that we also continue to do is 2,500 fixed seats with a capacity of around 4,000 for sporting events, and then a capacity of 8,000 for concerts, festivals, other types of activities that would utilize the actual sports field. So, I think we've come to a place where we feel we have a pretty good layout that provides some options moving forward, and if RDA and council give their blessing to this, I think then there's a timeline for going through and coming up with some tighter concepts and construction docs and moving on things down the line. But the core piece of this investment still does involve this outdoor events center. Again, one of the things, and we can discuss this a little bit more in the management agreement, again, multi-season, multi-purpose events, and then the things that we've been talking about all along are still in the conversation of what we want to do, both from sports, but also, again, providing an opportunity for our community to use this facility. We've got a lot of runs, a lot of walks, a lot of festivals, markets, other things that we're doing. This provides another amenity for us, and as the survey kind of discussed, another reason to get people down to this area of Broadway, and bringing in people that may come for a festival, run, or walk, but then will patronize the other establishments that are in that area. Also then, proposed in here is some waterfront enhancements and infrastructure. Some of the things that we'd be discussing here is we provide a path all along the waterfront perimeter of the site. There's very limited access to water for West Side residents, and we feel it's very important to be able to provide that to them. So providing either paved, paver, or crushed limestone path in order to be able to access this entire site and the entire waterfront, providing a floating docks so transient boaters can also access the site, a kayak launch, a play area, Some things that really, again, add to the public amenities of this piece, and things that can be used when the stadium itself is not being used. The other piece that's contemplated in here is the addition of parking improvements. It was noted by the residents as a concern, and one of the things that we have looked at and played around with different arrangements and configurations is the addition of 400 parking spots on or adjacent to the parcel. I think, as we talk about urban development, you don't want to overpark it because you don't want to have something in a sea of asphalt that takes, forever to get to, or just, there's not much action around. But I feel like being able to squeeze that many parking spots this close to this facility, can relieve some of that pressure off of parking in the neighborhood. So what we proposed is to have parking, basically the strip between the railroad tracks and Broadway, from Bridge Street south to Mason Street, with the exception of our family restaurant. The city owns all of those parcels with the exception of that triangle on the far left side that's owned by WPS, but we've had conversations about acquisition of that. Parking in there, and then also parking under the Mason Street overpass. That is city right of way. We've had discussions with the Public Works Director, and again, some design challenges of being able to accommodate parking in that area as well. With that, those are part of the pieces that we look at for the south. The north, we continue to look at high-density residential. Just similar products, again, we've talked about. We've met with a number of developers who are interested in this site. They're looking, again, part of the reason for moving forward is for some guidance from the city or direction from the city is where does the city stand on this? Where does the Redevelopment Authority stand in this? We'd like to do it, but we're not willing to make the investment if the city and the RDA are not. We can talk about, if you'd like, in closed session, the details of some of those projects or where they're at. But we have had some pretty good interest in residential products, some office, mixed use, and then also along Broadway. Again, I keep talking about these major redevelopment sites with Badger Sheet Metal, White Store, also a few scattered parcels that really aren't at their highest and best use. A lot of them are, even though they're commercial properties, are being used for storage or warehouse right now. There's some good parcels in Broadway and on Clinton Street, really, that are ripe for some redevelopment. And again, we're kind of talking this mid-scale, 3, 4, 5 story. We'd love to keep going with some commercial on Broadway. Again, office or residential above. When we talk about redevelopment, I just wanted to kind of interject, one comparable that this was before my time, but I think, when this community contemplated building the city deck and providing this public amenity that was, intended to drive development in the downtown. And so, looking at 4 projects, that are right on the city deck. Now, I know the flats on the Fox technically was built before the city deck, but if you look at the development agreement, things were kind of contemplated like, we're building this because the city deck is coming. Yes. So between that, Watermark, which is still not fully built out yet, so still not at its top value, City Deck Landing, and Metro, City or you had all those parcels at one time when they went into TID, so they're at no base. But in that period of time, we've been able to generate almost $32 million worth of development. So I think when we start talking about the potential for these investments to catalyze development, the city deck has done that. And I think what we're talking about here is another public investment that's going to stimulate those private dollars. So the other piece that I think is really important, and I wanted Cheryl to talk a little bit about, is what's unique, a little bit different than the city deck, is we actually have a neighborhood right next door. And so I think that presents a real unique opportunity that we don't have a lot of situations where you have a single family housing stock so close to kind of a commercial or neighborhood or entertainment type of center. And so I think, Cheryl can get into a little bit of, this neighborhood, we've done some projects in, we've partnered on some projects, but, it's kind of at that inflection point right now. So I'll let you kind of talk about
a number of you have been at the table when we've done projects in this neighborhood, in the Tank neighborhood. So the city has been very active in this neighborhood. I've been working in this neighborhood for 30 years, and we've done a lot of projects down here. But we're still at a tipping point in this neighborhood if you drive through it. It hasn't been enough to just make that change, to go over the top. I liken that to the Navarino neighborhood. See how much work we've done in Navarino? If not for the downtown redevelopment, Navarino wouldn't be at the spot it is in today. So I see this as exciting to me as a neighborhood person, as this is being a catalyst project for this residential neighborhood. I mean, I'm going to go there as an East Sider, and that's great, but the people who are living in this neighborhood are really going to be able to take advantage of this project, and that they're going to have the river activated in their neighborhood now. They're going to be able to go to the river. That is key. I mean, think about that. Think about bringing the building downtown before we had that. So as a neighborhood, they're going to have this project. They're also going to have access to the river. Now, we've been working with partners down there, NeighborWorks and Habitat, and we've done a lot of projects, but we would like to bring in, and if you look at the next slide, Ken, we talked before about funding in this neighborhood. We plan on bringing $1 million in the next 2020, contingent on what happens, of course, with our block grant and home funding, but we'd like to bring $1 million of development in this neighborhood. And that not only includes the stuff we've been doing, which is buying some stuff, taking it out, buying it, fixing it up, some new housing development, it's also infrastructure. You know, we need some sidewalks down there, we need some beautification projects. We've done some park improvements, because those are the things that really make a neighborhood change as well. So we're committing not only neighborhood enhancement, but our block grant and our home dollars to get in there and actually do, you know, the house by house, go through there, offer rehab loans, offer assistance for home buying, those types of things, but to do it in an impact this area, and we've done that in the past, just to concentrate in this area, because I think the combination of this project and then us going down there really changed that neighborhood. So that's one of the things that excites me the most about it. We've already got some partners. Ken, if you want to hit the next slide. We've done adopt-a-homes down there, Habitat's on board, NeighborWorks, we've talked about it, both housing authorities, so we have additional resources as well that we can bring to the plate. So as far as the shipyard, it's a great project, but it's a great neighborhood project, I think, because it can really transform this neighborhood that's really been sitting kind of in this flux stage for a very long time. And it's got this, you know, we've owned that property down there a long time, and nothing's really happened there. So this is a great opportunity to make that change. So.
If you put alleyways where I wanted.
I gotta pave them, right?
Sure, what's the age of most of those homes in that area?
That's an older neighborhood. In fact, there's a church down there, the Voice of Faith Church, I just looked up, was I think built in 1865. So there are some older housing stock in here. Some of it has reached its peak and needs to go. We've done a lot of that already, but there's also a lot of really nice housing stock that can be rehabbed, fixed up, converted from multi back to single.
Are a lot of the homes unoccupied today, is
No,
it?
no. I don't see a lot of vacancy in that neighborhood. It's probably more rental. I think when we looked it up, we thought it was close to 50-50. That seems, it would be really good if it was. I think when we did that, that's a 4-year-old
It seems like
parcel
I think it was
search.
5 years old when I looked at it, so I don't know.
50-50 is not a bad mix, but we'd like to make that a little bit higher.
Cheryl, how much money is in the facade grant fund, and then is this area eligible for facade grants?
Yes, actually, thank you, Joe. I don't know what is left in the facade grant now, but the block grant money that we're looking at doing the facade stuff. Along with, I believe that the EPA Brownsfield money this area has been designated as one of 3 areas that you'll be working within as well.
Correct.
So we're not, yes, it's business. We like to do the business economic development route as well as the residential, because there are businesses on Broadway that could use a facelift as well. Sure. And, you know, and the zoning down there is a hodge. We need to take a look at that, maybe, so.
Yeah, I think just, you know, kind of echo the point in terms of the stock and what's available there. 90 single-family homes. Of that, 75 of them are below our median per square foot price in the city of Green Bay. That's a lot of opportunity. Even just bringing, you know, a number of those homes up to that square foot. Just doing some rough numbers, you know, even if 80% of those homes were just to go back to the median value over the next 15 years, that's like $4 million worth of increment right there. And that's just going back to the median value. And I think, you know, there's a lot of opportunity. And one of the things I think we really want to be cognizant of is, you know, working with homeowners who are there to provide them tools to be able to fix up their own homes and basically take advantage of the growing property values in that neighborhood. So, what is before you today? Again, it's two pieces. This is the development agreement. The development agreement, again, contemplates some things. In it, we are looking at an $11 million total project. That includes the outdoor event center, the waterfront improvements, and parking improvements as specified in the agreement. Some of the conditions that kind of run along with this, we have talked about the creation of a new TID district in that area, roughly kind of mirroring the survey area. Boundaries aren't Bridge Street down to 9th Street, and then from Ashland over to the river. I think one of the things we've been looking at is just exactly how that would be configured. Obviously, this is going to be a blight or conservation rehab district, but just again, as we know, TIDS, it's getting it right and the timing right, seeing what parcels should be included kind of in that first iteration of the TID. Immediately, the first one will include definitely the parcels contemplated here and immediately around it, with then looking at seeing how, whether it's right away or in a few years about expansions in terms of including other properties. Long term, I don't know if this is the right TID or another TID for the intermodal yard, to have that included as well under the Ashland overpass. Like a little early for that, but in short, we're looking kind of basically the Broadway corridor from Arndt Street south to 9th Street. As far as uses of the funds and sources, $9.5 million for the stadium, $1.5 million for the waterfront enhancements and parking infrastructure. Those also take into consideration some of the things that we've dealt with in terms of like environmental work that needs to be done. We've been working, Wendy in our office has been working and Matt have been working very closely with the DNR, EPA, our consultant Stantec. We've got a pretty good indication of what work needs to be done there. To date, it's been no different than any other waterfront old brownfield site. There's some stuff there, probably going to get moved around, but probably can stay on site, and based on some of the uses, can be kept and done on site. Nothing really there that needs to be hauled away, which really is where you start to add up a lot of that expense. I won't speak for them, but we'd like to hopefully have them come forward at a future meeting. The DNR has been very supportive of this project and really likes this type of use for this type of land in this area. I think it's important to have a good partnership with them. They're very good to work with, and some of the work that you see going on right now in terms of the work that the Fox River cleanup crew is doing on the slip, removing the PCBs, and coming to some agreement about how that north wall would be replaced and repaired. That it's a win for us and a win for them. And again, getting those PCBs out there really provides us maximum flexibility for future uses. As far as then the sources of those funds, the operator will be required to put in $1 million cash or equivalent of services into the project to reduce the stadium cost. We were fortunate enough to receive $500,000 from the stadium district, and then we will be looking at $9.5 million of public financing. We have been talking to a number of sources about the financing piece. We've talked with our bond counsel about this and kind of run some preliminary numbers on, but we've also talked with a number of financial institutions. I don't know if Diana is here, who can also elaborate. Basically, we wanted to say, look, because this is such a community-driven project, would we have a financial institution that's interested in partnering with us, to really make a statement and make an investment into the project? So we talked with a number of banks, had some good conversations, tossed around some ideas. Who has stepped forward is Huntington Bank. Huntington Bank, recall we had a project with them with the Northland. I think there's some new people, and they want to look at that relationship, and they want to really make a commitment in the city. They've been very involved in terms of being up here discussing how they can grow their presence here. They've also looked, and what interests them most about this project is how can they also invest in that neighborhood. How can they look at, and one of the things we've pushed is how can they provide, are there some tools or financial products that they could provide to individuals in that neighborhood to help them with mortgaging, home ownership, the transition from, rental to ownership. I think one of the things, in terms of some of the specific terms, I think because we're still negotiating right now, I'd prefer to discuss those in closed session. But I think Huntington was willing to say that, yes, they would like to be a public partner in this. The two pieces that they are willing to do is provide a period where there is interest-only payments, which would allow us to basically create development and create increment to start paying back this loan. So it provides, kind of a grace period in terms of, being able to start generating some revenue to pay back the debt service. And they're also willing to do this more of a construction loan than a bond. And so what that means is we only need to draw out the money when we need it and at the time that we need it. So because this is a phased project, that provides us, I think, some cost savings in terms of, instead of a bond, look, you pull it all out, you got to start using it, and there's arbitrage and other things in terms of that timing on it. This provides us some more flexibility. I think myself, the mayor, our whole team, continues to look for other grant opportunities, and if there's other ways to be able to provide some funds, or for some reason we don't go up to that $9.5 million cap, there's some opportunities to use that money differently or not draw down on it. I think that's one of the things when Alderman Moore discussed at council, the importance of how this is paid back. That did not want this to be a burden on the tax levy. And I think, allowing for that financial situation to, push it out a little bit allows us some time to create some development in that area that helps to generate some of the increment to pay back on this investment. Timeline. So if approval moves forward with Redevelopment Authority and City Council, we have until December 31st. There's some conditions precedent. Basically, before this thing can be signed or we start spending money, RDA needs to approve a management agreement with an operator. Again, that's before you today for some discussion on that. Our RDA will also be required to enter some type of binding agreement for either the indoor performance venue or the full-service restaurant. I think it was important in discussions that we do this as a partnership. So I think being required to bring one of those partners on board to make it work, I think was important to the RDA and was important to council. And so I think in terms of timing, though, those partners are also looking from a sign from the RDA and the city to say, all right, well, if we're going to spend time and resources working on these agreements, we want to know that the city's in. Because if the city's not in, why are we going to spend all this time working on these agreements to come down and then, all right, well, the city doesn't want to do the project. So those are the conditions listed, preceded in here before projects would actually start. With that provides us then 3 months for design to come up with a concept plan. By June 1st, construction documentation and a budget. Those will all be subject to approval by the Redevelopment Authority, with then a deadline of March 1st, 2019 for completing construction. These are backstop dates. If things move more quickly and can be done sooner, I don't think anyone will complain about it. But I think this provides at least a reasonable timeline so that this thing at worst case would be fully operational in spring, summer of 2019. So I think it's some things we've been discussing. I think a little more detail in what we have been discussing. I just really want to emphasize again, the investment that we're doing here. Again, I think it's retained the multiple facets of this project. It's truly a comprehensive investment in this neighborhood. We really believe that, like other catalytic projects, this is Redevelopment Authority and the city saying, yes, we believe in this area, we believe in this neighborhood, and would like to see things grow and things develop. And I think, as it fits, again, what we've been talking about here in terms of adding those assets to the community. I mean, if you just look in the last few years, all the work that we've done in terms of pockets of investment in the community and commitments, just from basic things like our planning for the Velp Avenue, Legends District, University Avenue areas, to now projects that have moved forward, with Easttown and Military Avenue, continuing downtown, and then most recently, the rail yard. The shipyard, again, provides another piece of that puzzle that really makes us that competitive city that we're striving to be. And I think just the direction from our redevelopment authority, from you, from our council, has been that, look, it's a competitive world out there, and it's not just like Ashwaubenon, Howard, Bellevue competitive. I mean, it's a competitive world out there. And I think in terms of us, continuing to provide those opportunities, for residents to want to move, live, work, invest in businesses, this is the right project at the right time in which to move forward. So, I'd be happy to answer questions. I mean, our whole team is here, I think. Mayor, I don't know if you want to say a few things in terms of, I guess, where this fits and then how important it is.
Right. So this is a top priority for the city. We've been at this for over a year.
More than that.
More than that. I mean, really, and look, Mayor Halloran bought that property, and this area of our community has been really neglected for the last 35, 40 years, largely due to the aldermen, but we need to take that area, and this is, when you study cities and you study neighborhoods, this is teed up to be that neighborhood. I mean, this will be the most sought-after place to live by millennials, by active seniors, if we do this right. And doing it right is including the neighborhood, the outdoor event center, the private investment from either the indoor event center or a full-service restaurant, and walkable to farmers market downtown, nice lot sizes, good infrastructure, lighting, and a brand called the Shipyard. And, yeah, this is the right thing to do. And we have a window here too. I mean, as Kevin said, we've been meeting with a lot of people, banks, investors for phase 2, to the 6-acre parcel to the north. But we have people ready to do this now, and the city's ready to do it now. And we'll get into, there's no residential tax dollars in this thing. I mean, the stars are lined up for us to go ahead with this project. So, yeah, this is just the top priority for the city. It is. And we've had a number of top priorities, right? We're working on 10, 12, 15 projects, but this would be our number one project without a doubt. And, we just are really looking for this to get supported by the RDA and the council and come back in December with signed agreements.
Kevin, obviously we have a couple of private investors here. Could you recap what their commitment is, or will be?
Sure. What we're looking to do is, the two that we've been primarily talking with, Mark Scogan would like to build an indoor performance venue.
Yes.
Concerts, adds to kind of year-round amenities. In terms of a venue, kind of standing room only, 2,000, 2,500 people. He would like to build that facility and attached to the stadium, so it could be used with or without it.
Sure.
And Doozy's continues to be the full-service restaurant that's interested. They like the juxtaposition of stadium, waterfront, downtown. I mean,
Great.
3 great things that are for them. I think where those parties have been at in terms of discussions is where is the city at?
Right.
And I think as the staff we can only say so much. There comes a time where it's like, look, the Redevelopment Authority and the city ultimately have to say we're going to do this. And I think they're looking for some commitments in terms of doing that.
I guess I was getting at is financial commitment.
Sure.
Potential financial commitment.
What we've been discussed, and we go a little bit more in negotiations. The premise is, I think, we would like them to be private entities that ultimately are taxable and can provide some revenue in terms of that tax increment district.
Yes.
I think we are still aligned with those conversations. I think the structure, how it will probably move forward, is a ground lease agreement. I think we've talked about some different options, but I think RDA having the property itself with them owning the private improvements, having them responsible for that construction and taxes on it. And I think really what we've talked about, and again, if you want to further negotiate, is to provide them an opportunity or a pad in which to build on, in which they can be part of this project.
Right.
And I think, again, how we've lined up the timing is, if we approve a development agreement now, we have a window to get one or both on board. then that provides, if we know who's on board, it makes then that 90 days for doing the concept that much easier. Because it's hard to do a concept, because if you don't know who's on board, well, somebody comes in or somebody drops out, well then that changes how you want to arrange those things. And I think in terms of what was presented today, the discussions we've had, they would like to be connected to each other in kind of those positions, but we just need to make sure they're in or out before we start working on the actual concept. But yeah, those are, I mean, that has stayed the same since we've initially discussed.
And the timeline that you showed, then that would be, the intent would be that it would be all of those components, the indoor, the outdoor, the restaurant, follow that construction time frame, or just the outdoor venue? So
that time frame would be for the outdoor event center. Again, we would need to get at least one of those on board by the end of the year. Doesn't mean another one couldn't come later, and it doesn't mean another one couldn't be built sooner. I think that 90-day window in terms of like the concept plan and construction, you kind of figure out who's there. But if one of those has financing lined up and wants to get to work right away, I don't think there would be any complaints from having something open in fall of next year.
Which is what they expressed. So I think that's real. That they could open before the outdoor event centers.
The other venues could open up before the outdoor venue?
Yes.
Okay. The management team for the developer and the management team of the operator, are they essentially the same team of individuals?
Correct. So yes. So Big Top, who owns Big Top Events, is what's going to be contemplated in the management agreement. Affiliations with GB Baseball, which is the Bullfrogs, and then Big Top, which is the parent company out of Madison. That is still the same.
And there's essentially, and I'm probably crossing over to the management agreement here, so if I'm just move me away from that. But the management, the outdoor event center is going to have food venues, correct, within it. And then we're looking at Anduzzi's doing a standalone on the parcel, on the north end of that parcel. Okay. My concern, and that maybe goes to the management part of it, is some of the restrictions that we're looking at on the venue. We heard some of the data about the neighborhood and the interest that the neighbors have in this, and then we're going to possibly, other than Anduzzi's, if we have other venue. I know originally when we talked to Mr. Royal a long time ago, there was talk about having those food venues accessible 24, not 24/7, but 12 months out of the year, not just on event days, but from egress from outside of it, and giving. And I think that's from my standpoint. I would like to hear the reason why we're putting in the restrictions of them having to basically fold up their tent after every event. Costly for them, inventory-wise, food control, accessibility, then food to their consumer, et cetera, but more so for the neighborhood. We're kind of creating a bookend here, neighborhood with some restaurant and interest, and that we're shutting it off. So, educate me.
Yeah, I think they're probably a little better addressed in the management agreement, and then the ground leases that would be coming through in terms of, there's a lot of play in terms of how these things interact together. I think in terms of what do you do, and there's scenarios where just one is open, where two are open, and where all three are open. And I think they've had a lot of discussions about how they best operate off of each other. And I think the discussions that they've had, and whether there's sub-agreements between them in terms of how they manage that, they all see their success related to each other. And I think it's important for them that all three of them are comfortable with each other, and that they want to help each other work. That they know if one piece of that changes, it could change kind of the dynamics of the stadium. So I think we can talk a little bit about in the management agreement of how that is addressed, but it may also come in the ground lease agreements in terms of priority of use, and just things that, I guess basically when things are open and things are closed will probably come more in the ground lease piece.
Kevin, go ahead. Are these proposed developers in line with these dates that we discussed today?
Yeah, I think it's important for them that both parties. I mean, one, I think that's enough time for us to get these agreements hammered out without dragging them on forever. And I think we just need kind of a firm deadline of, look, we'll go out, 60 plus days here, and we just need to make some decisions about how we're going to move forward. And I think that it also kind of sets a realness to it, like, look, there's a deadline that's soon, but not too soon, but soon enough that, look, we need to work on this now. And we've had work on it. Again, I think it's going back to, there's so many moving pieces, it's trying to, like, look, put one piece of the base in line to see if you can stack the other ones all together.
Right, good.
Another question, with the cost of the project, et cetera, primarily through TIF financing, and we're simply doing a ground lease, did we ever explore actually not doing a ground lease, but doing the improvements, the asset improvements on the real estate and continue to own it, and simply work under a contract with the team that's Midwest?
We did explore that. That the ground lease is a better option in terms of, I think our council would prefer it this way. I won't speak for council too much, but in terms of some of the discussions we've had.
Well, they said no to it.
I've got, yeah, and in fact, when you're done, Tom, I've got a couple things to touch on here. Oh, are you done, Tom?
That doesn't mean I won't be back.
Yeah, right.
Right.
No, you understand.
Well, I mean, I would just say, look, I mean, a year and a half ago, I was appointed chair of the finance committee, and the very first thing we did at the very first meeting was we denied this project and said start over from scratch, because it just wasn't getting anywhere. We were really spinning wheels. And I think that we gave you a little bit better direction, and it's taken a year and a half, but meeting with the council and having a couple of those closed sessions to let us know where the progress was, I think we were able to get you the feedback. I think, what's happening, and I know that we put you really in a tough spot by saying that we did not want this to have any burden on the tax levy. And, if you look at social media now, with this being an agenda item, a lot of commentary about, who needs a stadium to fix the streets. And so I would like you to just explain how this does not put a burden on the tax levy and how it does not pull any money away from our street repairs. I think that that's important, that the public understands they're not paying more money out of pocket for a stadium when they would rather have streets fixed. So I think that that's a real key point. Another thing that we had asked for, we had discussed, part of it, like Tom was saying, owning the buildings and owning everything and leasing back that way. We did have that discussion and said that would have been a deal breaker. Because there are no real protections built in. If somebody were to go out of business, we'd be owning an empty restaurant. So I think that that's been addressed pretty well. And then I think the third key was on future maintenance and upkeep, which we'll see in the management agreement, which we requested, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But I guess first, if you could just address how this will have no effect on the tax levy, because I think this is a real good project. I've been behind this in the beginning, and I think we're finding a way to get it done.
Sure. So I think a few pieces help with that. The biggest one is our ability to partner with a financial institution who will let us carry some of the principal and interest costs for 5 years. That provides us a window to build up increment in that district in order to generate property increment that can help pay the debt service back. I mean, I'll be honest in terms of, what we're looking at is needing to create somewhere between around $20 million worth of increment, maybe 30. But I think if you look at the projects that we've done on the other side, I feel like that's not an unrealistic number given what we've done, especially in the last 2 years, the City Deck Landing and the Metro project. And again, I mean, I think we want to discuss where some potential projects are at and where they're coming in. 5 years, it's not a long time, but it is a long time in terms of being able to, get a project, concept, design, permitted, online, constructed, and then moving forward. So with that, I feel that what we've put together in terms of some of the other potential development providing that increment. It starts with one of these two or both the private improvements that are going to be right on the site. Providing that 20 million to 30 million worth of increment into this area helps us pay back that debt service. And provides that, in addition to that, we have the operator committing to $1 million up front to lower the principal costs. We have $500,000 from the stadium district to lower the principal cost. And then we have a structured lease payment that can provide, again, financing that's going in to help paying off the debt service. And I think, Diana, if there's anything else you want to interject, I think one of the things, we will have to look at, and this is more a little bit for the city in terms of, pledging full faith and credit of the city in order to do business with a financial institution. RDA doesn't have a lot of assets in itself, so the city needs to be involved to do a part of that. But I feel in terms of where we're projecting for this increment to come in, it's a very realistic number that the project will come in and other projects will suffice in order to help us pay that back. The other piece that I know has been talked about it this summer in terms of maintenance, we can get into that in the management agreement, and I think we have some provisions in there for both Redevelopment Authority and the operator to have some contributions in terms of capital improvements so that we have a facility that's competitive long-term. And I think that was very important for us to address, that we didn't just build a project and then, all right, in 20 years, figure out what to do with it. But yeah, I would like to talk those more in the management agreement. And then again, just, in terms of the financing piece, because we're still, negotiating terms with Huntington, in closed session, or if you want to talk to me, kind of dive down into like the cash flows and the numbers of where we're at. Both myself and I think our finance director, our development team feels comfortable in terms of where those numbers are coming in, that we would be able to make it happen.
I think it says a lot too that it's Huntington Bay after the fallout. The fact that they backed out of one project, but they see one here that they're willing to support. I think it says a lot about the project as well, that they've done their due diligence and that they want to continue to work with the city. So I think that says a lot, and I'm glad that they stepped forward.
Yeah.
Now, if they want to donate $9.5 million, I'd be happy to call this Huntington Shipyard.
No, and just with that credit, we talked, I think, maybe 5, 6 different institutions. Got to the point of like really discussing terms, and we just made sure, like, we went down a list of institutions, just made calls, and they're the ones who have been very persistent, very interested in this project. They've taken a lot of time to meet with us, and again, I think to their credit, they've looked at it as a package. They don't just see like, all right, here's one piece of it. They get it. They get what this means. So yes, we've been very appreciative of them stepping forward to work with us on this.
I guess I'm quite interested in a little more details about that, so I'd be interested in going to closed session.
Should we do that on this agreement or on the management agreement?
You'd probably want to do it on this one because it refers to the financing piece that would be required for this.
Do I have a second on that?
Sure. I would second closed session.
Or do you want to discuss, can we do that? Otherwise, we can just wait and we can discuss them both.
That's fine.
If you want to say, and just wait.
Because there's
Okay, that's
right,
fine.
and just.
Probably be the best idea.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
But I think we need to go there.
Yes, I do too.
Is there in the development agreement, well, again, this is going to the management, I'm just talking about reversion if in fact Northwoods were to not be successful.
Management agreement.
Yep.
Some provisions in there. Yep.
We probably aren't ready to make a motion on this then until after we talk about the management agreement, go into closed session and board vote. That's true?
Do we table this until the other items will be discussed?
You want to hold this, go to the next item, talk about closed session, and bring this back on the table? And
Yes.
Sure.
Sure.
I think that's.
Good.
think,
All right, so
make a
motion-
motion to table until
Second.
after item number 3.
Second that?
I seconded.
Okay, motion and second then to table this until we go over the management agreement. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay. So, item number 3 is the management agreement. And I think what I sent out to you is part of the provisions of that development agreement says RDA has to have an operator of the stadium, someone to manage, operate the day-to-day things there. I think we are very close to completing a management agreement with the operator. And again, Big Top Baseball, Green Bay Bullfrogs, Broadway Events LLC, I mean, all one and the same sense of discussion. I'll use those interchangeably. With that, I wanted an opportunity for the Redevelopment Authority to review the agreement. If there's just to give an opportunity, terms, conditions, clauses you feel should be in there, should not be in there. I think now is the time to discuss those and have us negotiate those before this comes back to the RDA for a vote. I feel that we've been able to capture, include a lot of the concerns, questions, things that have been discussed over the last year. But for something that we missed, I think now is the opportunity to do that. But because we're because we're negotiating at the time, I think that would be best to do in closed session. And as Commissioner Barber had talked about, if you want to take up number 2 and number 3 in a closed session, let's just do that with the language.
Language cover on both.
Sure.
Yeah.
Make a motion that the authority may convene a closed session pursuant to section 1985 1U Wisconsin statute for the purpose of deliberating and negotiating the sale of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The authority may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 1985-2 Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Clerk, call the roll.
And just for clarification, that exception does apply to both 2 and 3.
Yes.
Okay. Chair Harry Meyer.
Aye.
Gary Delvaux.
Here.
Jim Bloombrick.
Here.
Alderman Joe Moore.
Yes.
Melanie Parma.
Yes.
Matt Schuler.
Yes.
And Tom Moore.
Yes.
Okay, we are closed.
As far as the background agreement? Yeah.
Anybody out there, Cheryl?
Cold-blooded, then I'm okay.
Heartless and cold-blooded.
Yes. All right, back in regular session.
I want to thank the public for waiting out an hour-long closed session, and during this time, we discussed at extreme length both the development agreement and the management agreement for the shipyard project, and we're ready to move forward on the development agreement, and the management agreement will be referred to staff for further study and negotiation. We set a number of dates to bring this project to closure, and we're ready to move forward. And I look forward for a motion from the RDA for approval of the development
Do you take
agreement.
2 off the table first?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion, if you want to deal with number 2, to take 2 off the table.
Right.
Motion to refer item number 2 to staff.
Oh, number 2 is the
number
development
two.
agreement.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so you got 3 on the table right now, so what do you want to do with 3? We're talking about 3 right now. 3, you want to refer to
I
staff?
want to refer to staff.
Want to refer that to staff to continue negotiation.
Right.
Second.
With,
That was a motion by Matt and second by me for discussion, so.
Okay. With the consideration for the comments to remain in closed session.
Okay.
Or recommendations to remain in closed
Yep.
session. Yep.
So we have a motion,
Yep.
number 3.
Yep, motion and second.
Those in second, those in favor say aye. Opposed, carried.
Could you
All
please
right.
open the floor for discussion?
Oh,
You know, most chairmans normally look to the audience to see if there's people, or especially aldermen, have opportunities to address the committee regarding items. It's not just a motion, second, vote. Is your vote taken already?
You're the chair of this meeting.
Or don't we bother with the public anymore?
You do that. He wants me to come.
I see no issues.
We have a very important issue in my estimation.
I think 3's been disposed of. So if you want to take 2 off the table, then it's your
Take a motion to
pleasure.
take 2 off the table.
Second.
Item 2 is,
Got a vote?
just a minute,
Oh, sure. Taking 2 off the table, that's the development agreement.
yeah.
Okay, and we're taking it off the table?
Taking it off the table.
To refer back to staff, that way?
This one, I would recommend approval, but it's your pleasure.
Well, I thought we were going to approve the development agreement.
As far as I'm concerned.
We have to take it off the table to take action on it.
Yep.
To what?
So, to take action.
To take action on item 2, we have to take item 2 off the table. Remember we tabled it to talk about item 3?
Yep.
So we need to vote on
Gotcha.
taking item 2 off the
Okay,
table so we
gotcha.
can discuss it.
That was an
Second.
early vote before we went into closed
Yeah.
session, was to table 2, so that we could discuss 3 in
Yeah.
conjunction with it. So we're taking it off the table now.
Now I understand.
Or we
We-
can open
Okay, we got a motion and a second to take it off the table.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, motion is second then, to remove the development agreement, take it off the table, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay, so now you're talking about number 2, development agreement.
Great.
I would make a motion that we approve the development agreement, which will then be joined later, right, with the approval of a further ground lease agreement and the management agreement.
Correct.
Is there other items?
A second for discussion. Yeah, someone wants to talk on it.
Well, I may be out of order, but the concerns I brought up in the closed session, I thought left room for further discussions about the agreements. And I think all those things should be worked out amongst yourselves and maybe with the council in closed session of just how to, you know, I was suggesting things that I thought would make it a successful project. And I'd like to see a successful project. But it's also one that has to be accepted by the public, not just put down their throats. People don't like that kind of thing. And I thought there was at least interest in the things I was talking about that would bring revenues to the project, potentially bring revenues to the project and make it much more palatable to the public, and something that can be a win-win for the people who want to develop the project and the people who are really putting their name on the line, the citizens of Green Bay, all the property in the city of Green Bay that's on the line for the project. And I thought the suggestions merited, and I thought I heard some consensus about that. Yes, we should try to get the best deal we can, and one that's not disadvantageous to the developer, and at the same time not disadvantageous and higher risk for the people who really have to support on the bottom line what happens with the project. So I think you're premature in making motions to approve things. Yeah, I think you should have the whole thing together. You have 3 pieces here. I think you need to work on, especially the one you want to pass, to make sure that the numbers are coming out the way you want it, and that's not just a one-way street where the taxpayers take all the risk and the potential benefits, if they come, are basically with the developer. It's got to be a more even-handed affair. So I don't know what the rush to approve. I mean, the Redevelopment Authority has a reputation of passing everything that's recommended. Everything that's recommended. And I mean, you're there to represent the citizens. and to try to think like business people and how to make positive things happen in the community with the least amount of risk. You know, the public doesn't like boondoggles. So I think you should, I think it's fine that you're working on everything you're working on. I gave a bevy of ideas, and there's one or two more that I'd be willing to offer you. But I thought the very basic things had not been addressed yet, have really not been thought through by the Redevelopment Authority, and they need to get that in hard, agreeable facts. That's what you got Mr. Vonk here to work those things out. But if you're satisfied with the way it is right now, I'm not so sure the public is. I suggest you table this until you have worked out all the parts of it that you think can make this a successful project, not just the main risk on the public and the main potential benefit, if there is one, to the developer.
I would just mention, if you don't mind, the development agreement is between the RDA and the City of Green Bay. That's the first point. Secondly, in the development agreement is the language that says one of those other projects needs to be on board in order for this to take effect by the end of the year. So that covers, you know, having this project all come together in one here. The numbers work as far as being able to pay the debt service without having any effect on the levy as the development agreement is written. Now, if we can, I agree with Alderman Zima, there's a ton of room for negotiation in the management agreement, but I think that any victories from the RDA and the city in the management agreement is really gravy on top of what I think is a good development agreement. I think this project can move forward here, and of course, if we can't come together on a management agreement, it's all for naught anyway. So I think this can be passed today, and I think that the real work is going to be on a management agreement.
Right. Well, and I agree. One of the points I wanted to make was that a number of the items that were brought up are covered in the management agreement. We did not vote to approve the management agreement. Right. We voted to have them continue negotiations. So if there are items there that can be improved upon, etc., of course, we would hope that they would do that. Those items are.
And that'll come to council as well for more vetting and more direction from the council on the management agreement as well.
We have a motion ready to approve. Oh, Bill?
Bill Mindel, 125 West Mission Road. I just want to point out that the alder who just said that he would like to see this project successful gave an interview to Channel 11 yesterday in which he opposed the project and made clear his opposition to it. So I think he's telling one story to the RDA and then another story to the news media. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor
and a second.
Motion and a second.
to approve the development agreement. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Go ahead, Al.
The other thing that was only talked about briefly in the closed session was the access and ingress and outflow of traffic from the facility. And there was some work to be done on that yet, but I mean, here they're talking about which properties are in play. I want to say that I feel you need some way to handle traffic. I don't know if your main corridor is going to be Clinton Street, then maybe that has to be widened, signals, etc. I don't know. But I think that's another area that you have to look at. You don't want really to be disturbing the rest of the neighborhoods with people cutting through and doing all sorts of things. You want to have easy access, easy egress. Okay. So that's my concerns.
Okay.
We need a motion on the management agreement?
Nope, we already took care of
Squared away there?
that. Yep, so we're on to number 4.
All right. Number 4, consideration of possible action to approve the rebuilding of the HVAC air handling unit number 14 at the KI Convention Center not to exceed $15,803.
So the next few items on the agenda.
Right.
Yeah, this one is actually, if you read this, you can do number 14 down. It provides the air for the banquet system, the IT rooms, and some other rooms, so we really need to get this replaced. Public Works went out and worked with Tech Visions and Solutions, who's the company that I believe installed that and maintains them for us. And they got an estimate of $15,803 to make those repairs, not to replace it, to repair it.
Right.
And so that's our recommendation, is that we approve that. Comes out of, that would be coming out of the CAN maintenance funds, and we have a little over 1.4 million in those funds right now.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Tom, second by
Second.
Melanie. Those in favor of the action to approve the rebuilding of the HVAC air handling system at the KA Convention Center not to exceed $15,803. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Number 5, consideration of possible action to approve the repair of underground roof drainage system that created sinkholes at the Hampton Inn properties as a result of the KI Convention Center expansion project not to exceed $30,953.62. Is that our problem, Kevin, or the contractor's problem?
I was hoping that John Miller would be here to discuss this. The report that's written is with regards to when the CAD was being worked on. Apparently there was some type of pipe that wasn't installed or pulled out. I'm not quite sure, but as a result of that work.
And this is on the expansion.
On the expansion of the project a couple years ago. So as a result, we had a lot of rain this year, so it caused these sinkholes. They couldn't figure it out. They had to do a lot of digging. They found out what it was. It was this connection that wasn't made, so.
Any of this liability fall back on the contractor?
You know, I don't.
Through that.
I don't believe it, this request came from Public Works, and I asked that. I don't believe it does, that's why they've made the request.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like, just reading through it, it's hard to say, you know, who made decisions when, at what point, who signed off on, you know, some of these are just unforeseen conditions, right, that happen during construction. Unfortunately, it's painful and
Spoken like an architect who just told the contractor, just pull it out.
Get out of here.
Gotcha.
This work has already been done.
Would commonly, I mean, I'm not opposed to paying it, but commonly when we go back to the contractor, that if in fact we know that they...
I think the hard thing is who directed them to do it. Did they just do it? Did they say, here's what we could do, and Public Works says, yeah, let's give that a try, and then it doesn't, you know, I mean, then it's on the owner that gave them that directive, you know, because it doesn't look like it was necessarily engineered in it, right.
But it was an operator error. I mean,
It's an expensive drain tile.
Yeah.
Sure, does this come out of our, come out of the KI Center?
It'd come out of the maintenance fund.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second then to approve the repair of the underground drainage system that created sinkholes at the KA Convention Center, not to exceed $30,953.62. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Number 6, consideration and possible action to approve $6,071 to Tech Visions and Solutions for the replacement of an electrical panel at the KA Convention Center.
When it rains, it pours, I guess, right? So this is for the breakout section, the older section, and this is a panel that controls the heat. In that section, they were kind of gimping it along this summer, but it's come to the point now where DPW is like, we have to replace this now, so.
That's pretty old, isn't it?
So move to approve.
Yeah, second.
Motion by Gary, second by Melanie. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Number 7, consideration of possible action to approve the placement of a large public art piece of RDA-owned property on the west bank of the Fox River at the corner of North Washington on the east side and North Avenue.
Well, it's 2 sites actually that the RDA owns. So the city has received a donation from Wisconsin Public Service of $100,000 to do a public interactive art piece somewhere downtown. We've been working with them for a while. The RDA has 2 sites that would be potential places where this art could be placed. This one is along where the River's Edge Apartments are. The RDA owns all that green area. So I think the thought was potentially putting this piece somewhere in this area here. And then, of course, you get the city deck. You can see it from that way. Or do you want to hit the other one? Remember, this is the little section we still own with regards to on Washington, Northland Hotels here. Oh. This corner here, Children's Museum. So we own this corner. This is probably the better area. That would be, we'd prefer on that corner. But we would need the approval to either one of these sites from the RDA.
I've got a question. Are there a lot of stipulations that are coming along with this donation, just like the twin towers that were donated downtown that require like so much traffic and 25 parking stalls always have to be around it, and you know, I mean,
No, I have attached the RFT.
if we tear something down, I'd like to be able to build something.
No, well,
someday.
we actually took that into consideration. We have that as in the RD. WPS has said to us, we want it interactive so kids can be able to touch it, things can happen with it type of a situation. And it's a $100,000 grant, the piece will be 80, 20 will be set aside for maintenance.
Okay.
So we already have that worked into the project.
And both of these sites, is there a preference from staff on this one?
I think the preference would be this one here on Northland and Washington. It's pretty
Specifically,
visible on
there's
Washington.
a reference about kids in that location
Children's
relative to
Museum.
Children's
Sure.
Museum.
Children's Museum, it's visible when you're, coming down, when
Yeah.
you're heading southbound
Yeah.
Washington.
Do
So
we have
that
any
would be
say
the
on the art
preference.
itself?
You can request that. I mean, we have the Public Arts Committee now
Really? Oh.
that's actually working through
And
this
they'll approve
project.
it. They'll approve it.
So they could, you could say, Public Arts Commission,
I like that.
take care of that.
Well, I think somebody should.
Well, it definitely would go through the Public Arts Commission,
Yeah,
so.
right, good.
Whether or not you want to see it back and make that
No, no,
decision's up to you.
that's fine.
Just want to see.
Up to you.
But this said, there was no restriction from WPS about the West Bank. I mean, this said. on
No,
the
that's
West
just
Bank.
another site that we own that's
Oh.
downtown, because there's not a lot
So
of.
it's either or,
open
not
spaces.
both of them.
Correct, it's either or.
Yeah.
Our recommendation would be the one on North and Washington.
I make a motion that we approve that location. Accept the donation.
Okay, motion by Joe, second by Gary then to approve the,
With the, I like the approval of the Arts Commission, approving the,
Yes.
add that to the motion, Joe.
I accept that amendment to my motion.
good for it.
I second that.
Then we have the motion and the second with the amendment. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Consideration of possible action on a request for a short sale at 923 Langlade Avenue. What is that?
Kevin, Sister King.
Kevin's gonna
There he is.
Kevin makes his
So,
appearance.
the property at 923 Langlade Avenue was a single family homeowner who got some money from the Redevelopment Authority, got some money from NeighborWorks, and of course the bank. Got themselves in trouble financially and is in the process of losing the property. Now, we've worked with a realtor on this. We're trying to get information from the banking institution, but we can't seem to get anywhere with them. I spoke with the realtor about getting some kind of parameters of what they'd accept in a short sale, trying to get some money back for the Redevelopment Authority. And apparently they need a request in writing and 30 days to consider it. They have an offer, Keller Williams is realtor, they have an offer on the table, and the owner, or the offer is going to go away, it sounds like. But, and then also ask for permission to discuss with the homeowner if they're willing to make a payment to cover the difference to the Redevelopment Authority if we accept the short sale. Got no response from the owner as well, so at this time, it's dead, I think.
So, in short, we're canceling this.
I only have one
Oh, so where are we at?
comment that after the realtor, after the R-E-A-L, there's not another A. Get it straight. You don't go to a docket.
Did I say
realtor? Yeah.
Realtor.
Yeah, it's not realtor, it's realtor. Like
I
a
know,
doctor.
and they get real
I just wanna
offended
get
when
you,
you
you
goof it
know.
up.
Thanks for the correction.
Joe's still learning, but.
Shows doesn't care.
You're wasting our time.
Thanks for the correction.
In short, they didn't get us all the information that we needed, so.
No
Refer back to
action.
staff or receive and
Alright.
place on file?
As for a motion on a short sale for 923 Langland Avenue.
You just referred back?
Receive and place on file.
I'll make the motion that we just take number 10?
Eight.
Receive it- 8, excuse me, receive it and place it on file.
Second.
Okay, motion by Matt, second by Joe. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. As for approval of the action on the acceptance of financial report and check register as provided.
And you looked at all these right here?
No, without a doubt.
I'll make a motion to approve the check register.
Second.
A motion by Gary, second by Matt, then to approve the financial report and check register as provided. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Number 10, tax increment district TID reports.
One comment, that I'd like to table this, mainly
Yeah,
because Jim Blumrick's not here,
Yeah.
and they're expert.
Jim asked the same
Oh,
thing
did he?
before
Good,
it left,
good.
and I was like, I don't know what the procedure is for
Yeah,
an
we-
informational item, but
He needs to be here.
Yeah,
Jim
we can
was
just table it till next one, that's.
We just table it.
that's fine. Yep.
Come back.
Perfect.
Then
Jim will be
any
very
report from
happy
you?
that we can.
Good.
Good.
But you had questions, he said, that's great.
Yeah.
Anything left to talk about?
The one thing I just wanted to do before we leave, so November 14th, we had talked about meeting at the CAG Convention Center, and we talked about meeting in the morning. But I know we had some obligations, so we wanted to maybe just, if we could set a time. I don't anticipate too heavy of an agenda, so if we want to pick a time in the morning, I think that worked.
Can we look at the sinkholes?
Well, 11 o'clock.
11 would be great.
11 o'clock?
Just bought them.
You okay with 11? What time is
What is this, the
council starting that? 3?
Council is scheduled to start at noon, but I don't know if that
Typically, we
happens.
bump that back to
It's
3 or
not
4
confirmed.
o'clock.
Okay.
It usually gets moved back.
We usually move it back to 3 or 4
Would you be
because of
okay with
folks that are working the day shifts.
11?
That'd be great to me.
11? 11?
Yep.
Bring 'em
Sure,
up.
11's fine by
Okay.
me.
All right.
11
We'll
a.m.
meet at the KI.
Meet at KI, we'll make sure to send
Let us
notice.
know where to meet, it's a
Yep.
big
Yes.
place.
Yes, oh yes,
Yes.
by the sinkhole.
Almost got bigger.
Not
in it.
It's got lower.
I thought it got
Do you have any
fixed.
report, Kevin?
Not unless you have any questions, you probably heard, it's old news by now, but receiver was appointed for Fort Northland, so they're getting pieces together to get that project moving again.
Good.
Rail yard has been moving well, they're just getting ready to get that project rolling. I mean, after approvals, I mean, since we've talked, it's been going. I don't know if you have any other questions, any other?
Whatever happened to the barracks on Broadway?
Barracks is, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what?
They can't
Yep.
do
Is
it.
that right?
Yep, the just numbers didn't pencil out, and so they're just on hold for right now. Maybe it'll come back.
Harry, you're back on the clock for that one.
Yeah, but with that, look, Ken's, we're marketing that property again. So,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
we don't have
good.
any exclusive planning
Oh,
options,
good.
so we'd love to see something there, so it's,
Yeah.
That's
we're
good
back
spot.
actively marketing it.
It's good spot for right project, absolutely.
Correct.
I've had some interest already.
You know, the ultimate question that
Nice.
you get asked, Northland Hotel, eventually, in our lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I think it's more, I think it's.
yeah. No,
I mean,
It's
the
gonna happen.
receiver is.
The receiver, all our, look, basically, they appointed the receiver, gave the receiver a lot of authority, which is needed in terms of putting together the conditions, I think, that the city talked about, and getting workers back to work. I mean, really, the next steps are figuring out what work needs to be done, getting the subcontractors paid for work that was done, and then figuring out, okay, what yet needs to be done, and how do we get those under contract with the contractors, subcontractors, to finish it out. I mean, those are the pieces that they're working on right now.
Good.
With that, then you can see workers back.
Just a step in the
The
right direction.
question that was raised, and this is really, we're gonna have to save for discussion on this, was, it said, okay, but now what's the viability of the Northland when we have Lodge Kohler in the marketplace? And I said, they're really kind of different, but
Oh, yeah.
we're expanding restaurants, we're still gonna go to 2 restaurants in the Northland project.
So,
Northland's downtown.
correct.
I know, and that's what I said. I said they're just different venues,
Yep.
but they were looking at the economic, can the community support? And I said, you would be surprised.
Yes,
I don't
and
think that's a
what
question.
Kohler has been able to get for rates definitely supports Performer here and what we're able to do, so it is actually a good thing that they kind of tested the market and support.
So how are the rooms?
I have,
Used it.
that's, no, I haven't stayed over.
Take your wife there.
At Colon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of people in for
Okay.
meetings last week who stayed there, and they enjoyed the property very much.
Okay.
Both the location, right, some of the other stuff that's
Sure.
around it was, right, they really liked, you know, because right, you can go to Hinterland, there's the whole
Yeah.
park, you know, stuff there now, and people really liked the rooms. If you're not a Packer fan, I understand you get a little bit of freaked out, because there's Packer art staring at
All
you
over.
in all the rooms. But we had a bunch of folks, and they spoke very highly of the
I
property.
toured it, I was very impressed, very, very nice.
Yeah, I
Different
think,
level.
Have you eaten, I know they have 2 venues there, one's more of a pizza type venue than the other. So
I have.
Kevin, will the receiver keep us advised of the steps that he takes?
yep, and so
Yeah.
I think communicate towards us in terms of actions that they're taking to get it done, yes. Yep, because we're an investor, will be apprised.
Because we have to know what's going on. Right, good. All right, adjourned.
Very good. Ooh, long one.
Yeah, no, 4 o'clock.
Harry, I need a signature from you when you get a chance.
You're on board, Kevin.
Good job, Kevin, handling all that.
Thanks.
Oh.